Time is 5 to 7 minutes. Let's welcome McKenzie.
As children, we feel like the rules don't apply to us. We feel invulnerable. We feel like no matter what we do, there are no consequences. Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests, and especially anyone who has felt this way, felt invulnerable. I remember the day when I first realized that my actions do have consequences. Growing up, my brother and I spent a lot of time with my two cousins. The four of us would get up in the morning, we'd be gone all day, wouldn't come back until the streetlights were on. My oldest cousin, Larry, was 14 at the time. He was our leader. He always knew what we were doing every day. He guided us and we just followed. My brother was 12. He was Larry's right-hand man, always backed him up. Fearless, too. My cousin Billy was 11. He was always looking to get in trouble. Like if there was a beehive, he was the one poking it with a stick. I was 10 at the time. I was always the one saying, I don't know if this is a good idea, guys. But I'd do it anyways, of course. And it seemed like we never got into real trouble for stuff we did. And we did a lot of dumb things. Like I remember jumping on and off moving trains as a kid. I remember climbing lots of roofs as a kid. And it seemed like even on the trains, like the worst thing we got was skinned knees. I remember we climbed the roof of a church. As we're climbing down, the priest came out. Said, hey boys, come on with me, we're gonna call your parents. We're like, oh, okay, Father. As soon as you open the door, we all bolted, we were gone. It seemed like the rules didn't apply to us. They didn't really matter. We'd spend enough time hanging out at the convenience store, Stop and Shop. I remember the guy who owned it, Mr. Ullman. We used to call him Mr. Old Man. Although, when I think back on it now, it seems like he was probably about 50. He wasn't that old. Never liked the guy. Because it seemed like he didn't like kids. Like if you stood in line and there was an adult behind you, he would always serve the adult first. He was always yelling at us for something or other. I remember we were just sitting there playing pinball. He comes by. Hey kids, what are you doing? You shouldn't be winning so many free games. You gotta be cheating. Like we're just playing pinball, man. Well, there was one day, we were out in the alley behind the store. My cousin Larry says, hey, let's climb this roof. Sure, sounds like a good idea. It's particularly easy to climb. He had his garbage covered with some wooden construct he made. It had a tin roof on it, maybe 6 feet high. Pretty easy to get up onto, and then get up onto the roof. Now from there, all the shops were connected, the whole block. So we go from one roof to the next, up some, down some. It was like being in a movie, you know, you see in the movies, running from rooftop to rooftop, getting shot at. It was like that, we had a good time. Climbed up and down everything. And then of course it was time to leave, time to go home. And my cousin Larry, he carefully got down. My brother Harry, he carefully got down. Billy stands on the edge, jumps on the tin roof, bang! I'm like, oh my God, everyone hears us. So I gotta run. I jump behind him too, and I jump down again, and I get up, and sure enough, back door comes swinging wide open. There's Mr. Ullman. Fire in his eyes, steam coming out of his ears. He wants blood, and he's coming after me. So I get up and I start running as fast as I can on the gravel driveway, as fast as I could go. And I could hear him behind me. I could hear the stones turning. I could hear him just flipping. So as soon as I could, I make a left as fast as I can. He tried to make a left, but he wasn't quite as agile as me. And I remember thinking, and I could hear him fall on the gravel. I remember thinking for a moment, I'm safe. And then I caught up with my brother and my cousins, and they said, oh, he fell pretty hard. And I was conflicted in that moment. I'm like, I don't really like this guy, but I don't want anything bad to happen. I never wanted to hurt him. And I kind of looked back and I could see him fumbling up, and then I could see, He's got a bit of blood on his arms, and I thought, I did this. This is the first time I remember feeling like I made a choice, and it turned out really poorly. I never went back to the shop. If I did, it must have been 10 years later. But Billy went in the next day, and he said, oh yeah, he's cut up. He's got some scrapes on his face. And I recall feeling horrible about it. And I'd like to tell you that I never made another foolish decision in my life. And I'd like to tell you that I never followed a gang blindly. But these are lies. But I would like to think that that moment, that incident, changed the way I approach things. I'd like to think that having those consequences made me think twice about the foolish things we were doing. In life, we all make mistakes. But it's about the way we learn and grow from these mistakes that truly matter. Mr. Toastmasters.